Okay, so hopefully Jonathan can get back in with us. Hopefully that'll work, and otherwise we'll just keep moving along with the presentation. Um, I should be situated myself. So, um, if you could, if you take a look at this picture here, you think if this, if this image can, relates to your life, right? If you can relate to this at all, like paper calendars, binders, piles of money, and sticky notes, all kind of all over the place. Well, there's this computer sitting there that could actually manage all the same types of tasks, with the right software. It could really, do it with a fraction of the time and the hassle. So, but you're in the right place if you, if you're spending hours managing communication tools and systems, and if you, spend hours every week, managing piles of paper, or if you'd like to spend more time on, the higher value tasks that are more fun, like being face to face with children and being with parents. I also want to say, I encourage you to stay to the end. I know we're starting late, so if you could, stick with us for as long as you can. You need all this information. Um, we're going to review a variety of solutions, that are really going to answer the most common problems of parent engagement. Parents not being informed and feeling frustrated, or you spending hours managing piles of paper, or managing different communication tools in a patchwork, that often have like redundant databases that all have to be managed. And doing the same repetitive tasks over and over again that could be automated by a system, or losing track of parents in the enrollment process. So the goal of this presentation today is to teach you how to use the right communication tools the right way, so that parents actually read your messages and are informed. And the second goal is to learn how to be found by and engage the most ideal families for your school throughout the entire scope of your program. And the third goal is to learn how to reduce the time and expense that you and your staff put into a disjointed patchwork-like communication system. So just to talk about me and my family for a second, we live here in Toronto, and in Ontario, the Ministry of Education really likes to pound on the paperwork. My wife Kyla is an expert in early childhood education. She's worked in many education scenarios here in Toronto, and I know firsthand how much time she spends performing the state required paperwork, documenting the progress of children and everything, which obviously is really important. This type of documentation, when done through a paper-based and inefficient system, really results in lower programming quality. Things like material development and instructional planning and communicating with parents, working with teammates. These are the things that increase program quality. So anything that takes away from this really is just taking away from the quality of the program. And I would introduce Jonathan Wolff. I'm sure he doesn't need any introduction. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be able to jump back in with us today, but we will make sure that we promote a webinar next week. Make sure you know about it, and we will make sure that we use a different tool so that you don't have the same crazy experiences today. I'm sure everyone here agrees that parent engagement is incredibly important for the successful outcome for students, and every major university has departments focused exclusively on it. But for many reasons, I decided it was my mission to really figure out the system for Montessori schools that will not only improve and increase parent engagement, but also make it way easier for the staff to perform their jobs by removing the hassles that exist with managing multiple communication tools. And the beautiful thing is that really it's the same solution for both sides of the coin. Meaning, if you can simplify the tools and systems that staff use, it'll make it easier for them to focus on the systems and improve their learning experience. While at the same time, a simpler system will give parents the experience that they prefer as well. And that's why I built Hubbli, which is an all-in-one parent engagement system. So the lessons I'm going to talk about today are all based off thousands of conversations I've had with school directors and teachers and parents and office managers and communications directors. and and we use those to build and continuously improve Hubbli. And this information is not only coming from conversations, but also from data. Because we have a system that has sent over 3 million parent messages. So, why is building a great parent engagement system such a hard thing to nail down? Well, schools are not run by digital communication experts, right? They're run by education experts, and that's why um, that's really the way it should be. And that's the kind of school that I want my kids in. But this does create a distinct challenge for schools. So the reality is that parents are experiencing pretty frustrating and confusing communication systems. Every school that we talk to really has no standard of communication between the school and the parents. From one teacher to the other, oftentimes it's a totally different experience for the parents. One teacher will use Facebook, another will use sticky notes, another uses text messages. So some parents have three teachers doing three different things for communication, and they don't really know where things are. So if you could ask, like, have you ask yourself, have you ever been frustrated by parents who say they don't know about events, even though you might have sent the information to them many times? Or have you found that because some staff also didn't know what was happening, they unfortunately didn't follow through with their responsibilities? So the reality is that parents and staff are oftentimes programmed by the system itself to ignore communications from the school. So here are some common mistakes that cause messages to be missed or misunderstood. So just mentally check off the ones that are happening in your school. Are you sending everything to everyone regardless of its usefulness and relevance to each specific parent? Meaning, the kind of everything that's going on in the school kind of sent to everybody. Are you sending information over and over with the hope that parents will read it? Or do you find parents have multiple locations to look for information? And how much time and money are you putting into using paper? So if you can imagine if there was an all-encompassing communications tool that ensured parents were informed, and that they enjoyed the experience, like what would that be like? Jonathan Wolff taught me about, a lot about Maria Montessori and the concept to follow the child. So what if we followed the same principles with our communications to parents? What would happen if our messaging practices were more responsive to the lifestyle needs and the communication tendencies of the families that you serve and hope to retain? So what I'd love to do now is just ask everyone that's here that can hear me to poll. I want to poll everybody. What communication tools are you guys using at your school? If you could list them off, tell me how many you're using, and which ones are you using? Oftentimes. So I'll give you a second here, but in the chat box, um, feel free to just list off the communication tools that your school currently uses. What we hear a lot is, Facebook or there we go. So Erica, thank you very much for your input. Blog posts, email, website, email, right? Email and Shutterfly. Yeah, we hear those a lot too. So you've got an app. Okay. Richard saying email, notes, chalkboard, website, Facebook. Great. Yeah, these are all the standard, constant contact. Yeah, social media, Facebook, Twitter. Okay, thanks, Helen. Thank you guys for giving us your input. Very common. So, one lady I spoke with recently, she said that she had to just reschedule a meeting. And it took her like 45 minutes, and it was like 45 minutes of real frustration because she just wanted to simply, she had like a small group of people, and they had a meeting book, and then they had to reschedule a meeting. And what they were doing was using email as a group communication method. So everyone's hitting reply all. So really quickly, it became like this spaghetti like email thread, and trying to figure out who could or couldn't make the multiple different proposed times that each person was proposing became really kind of difficult. So this is what you end up with when everyone's hitting reply all, and this gets really fun when everyone's on different email providers who organize the thread differently. So what you end up with this lovely email thread like this, and when all this is what it looks like when everything's collapsed. And then you have to open each one, and each individual message has all the previous messages threaded inside of that one. So it's like a progressively, it's like a list of progressively longer email threads. I like the analogy. It's like a bowls of spaghetti stacked on top of each other, and really, you're looking for one little noodle of information, right? So really, it's just quite an inefficient way to communicate. So a private social network, like this example from the Hubbli system, is much more efficient and way less risky. So Hubbli is like having your own private Facebook where everyone is a member of one or more groups according to their areas of common interest or need, right? So, once something is posted in a group, if someone has a question on it, everyone can see the answer. So the teacher doesn't have to answer it separately for everyone. And it's easy to see the thread of the whole conversation. You don't have to dig around through emails. Plus, everything that's relevant to a parent is contained within their network of groups. So when they need to find information, it's already organized for them in context, rather than having to kind of sift through an entire email archive where everything else from their entire life is piled on top of it. So, how helpful would it be to know who read your messages? That's another question I have. How many times have you sent messages out and had no idea who did or didn't read them? And would it be helpful to you to know who did or didn't read your messages? What could how would that change your day-to-day follow-up with parents, or, when you send a message out? So if you look at the example here in Hubbli, we make it really easy to see this information on every single message that you send. So these groups are great because you can send and receive real-time updates. You can notify parents about group-specific events. You can answer questions just once. And inside these groups, you can share photos, videos, and documents. These are all things that schools are doing in various locations and with various tools. So, I recently was speaking to a school, and I was asking them how do your teachers communicate messages or send updates or notifications or reminders out to the parents? And they told me, like, well, they kind of listed off the different teachers. Like, this teacher uses a Facebook group. This teacher likes to use Shutterfly. Literally, she uses sticky notes. So she writes sticky notes. I think she puts it in the backpacks of her children. And so everyone's using different channels, right? So if you take it a second to think about how many hurdles of complexity your parents have to go through to find the information they're looking for, right? How many different tools does your staff use to send out notifications about events and activities? Does the complexity of your system possibly decrease the amount of parent readership and response to the information you're sending them? So you want to make sure that the system you use centralizes all the notifications through one channel. And you want to make sure it has both email and mobile notifications, so they have a better chance of getting read. So the benefit of a notification system built for schools like Hubbli is that it's an uncomplicated channel of communication, and it's discrete. It's about school and nothing else. Another really important feature you want to look for, and I really can't stress this enough, is whatever system or tool you use for this, make sure the parents don't have to log in to respond. Parents should never really have to log into a system, whether to see something or to respond to it. If you want to increase parent engagement, you must remove as many barriers as possible. That's what the goal is, to make it easier, you want to make it easier for parents to be informed and engaged. So you want to use a tool that allows users to reply to system notifications that land in their email directly from that email. Again, there are tools out there that do this. You don't have to use Hubbli for this. I know Facebook does this and LinkedIn does this. Of course, they come with their own issues for a school, but first and foremost, this is really about removing the barriers, and making parent communication as easy as possible. There is actually one additional benefit to the way Hubbli manages it, is that even if the parents are communicating and replying from an email, it's actually still being archived inside Hubbli. So you, as the school admin, actually have full transparency into all records of communication. Even if the parents didn't log into Hubbli to reply to a message or send a message, it's actually still, you can still see it from the admin's perspective. You got full access to that, which, here and there, it's not about being like Big Brother, but if you can imagine, always being able to review communications happening between your staff and the parents. So not only giving the parents a great communication experience, but also having the access to, for training purposes. Like how many times have you read a message from from a staff member to a parent and kind of rolled your eyes, or like been like kind of cringed because like you can't believe they actually said it like that, or ooh, you know what I mean? Like that's a little dangerous, or it should have been worded like this, whatever. So having access to go in and review communications in all forms between your staff in one centralized place where it makes it easy and organized for you could be really beneficial also on a training level as well. So that's something that Hubbli gives you, so you don't have to yourself have admin sort of control in the various different tools that your staff are using. If your staff is using Facebook, you don't have that access, unfortunately, right? Because you're not Mark Zuckerberg. But when you're using a tool like Hubbli, you have your own little private social network. It's like you are like Mark Zuckerberg, so to speak. You can see everything that's going on really easily. So another really important area of communication is about around events. And calendar management is another place that we see schools losing a lot of time that could be, better spent on those higher value tasks, right? Like, would you rather be in the classroom with kids or managing calendars? So my admin, many admins I've talked to have multiple calendar systems and tools, and they're always having to keep them up to date manually. So ideally, you want to create separate calendars for each class or program so that parents don't have to you don't want parents to have to sift through events that are not relevant to them, because if they have to do that, many times they won't bother, and it's because it's either too annoying or they're simply just too busy and they forget. And just like I said before, parents really should not have to log into any system to be informed. So if you notice here, this example of the Hubbli calendar tool, it actually has a feature so parents can just synchronize their personal calendars. So any events from the Hubbli calendar will just automatically show up in any personal, calendar tool that they like to use, whether it's an iPhone or an Android or Google Calendar. On Hubbli, we give you this one centralized calendar tool that allows you to create events and assign them to any specific programs or groups. And then it can send out notifications to the parents as well. But like all the features here, Hubbli has baked into, we have it baked into this one platform. So you can certainly find other tools that, that have these features. But the question is, do you want to manage a separate tool with a separate database of contacts and everything? But the key thing is that parents shouldn't have to log in. And if they do, they only see events that pertain to them and never see events that aren't relevant to them, so that it's easier, right? It's all about making it easy for the parents to be informed. And you just got to take as many roadblocks away from them. And I've had many conversations with school directors that say, listen, we do our job. Like we put up the calendars and we put up the information. And it's really the responsibility of the parents to be informed. And that might be the case, and that might be a very fair thing to say. But the reality is that if parents aren't informed, that makes your life harder. Think about that. How much does it add to your workload when you have to when you have to, work twice as hard to make sure parents know what's going on, or chase parents around to get information from them, or chase after them to make sure that they're showing up at the events. It doesn't ultimately, when we're talking about the operations management at your school and how much effort it takes to run it, it doesn't matter whose responsibility it is, because parents, although it's fair to say it is their responsibility, you end up holding the bag when they don't know what's going on. So you need a system that makes that easy. It makes it easy for the parents. It makes it easy for you. Um, so moving on, newsletters is a really important component to your parent communication system. So the question is, what should go into your newsletters? Right? There's a time and place for newsletters, but if you're using groups and other tools right away, the right way, their respective notification systems should be taking care of the majority of your day-to-day announcements and reminders. So newsletters are really best used for less frequent communications that can talk about your school on a higher level. If they're not bogged down with the day-to-day details, it'll allow you to write much more engaging and targeted newsletters that will be valued by your parents or your prospective parents. They should be focused on parent education, giving them tools and understandings that they can use at home with their kids. Your newsletters can become a value add that parents will even share with all their friends, right? Get that word of mouth marketing happening, rather than just a list of details that are usually mostly about everyone else's children. So this is an example of the Hubbli newsletter designer. It has all the same functions and features you can find in other email newsletter tools like MailChimp or Constant Contact, or there's a long list of them. But of course, with Hubbli, it's not a separate tool, right? You don't have to manage separate lists in another system. Everything is already built for you. Your database is centralized and it's already organized. So when you create a newsletter, you don't have to also make sure that the list is up to date. Can I just take a minute here? I'd love to just ask if there's any questions from anybody. Um, what from what you've seen so far, are there any questions from the team here? Richard, you're using Slack. That's interesting. That's the first time I've heard Slack being used at a school. I actually would love to ask you so many questions about that. We use Slack ourselves here at Hubbli. I think every tech company in the world does right now. Laura, you're using blogs. Richard, you're asking, do you ever have integration issues? Well, not that I can think of. We integrate. We're built on a platform, with a really strong API. If we want to get really technical here, but we don't have integration issues that I know of. Yeah, well, that makes sense, Richard. Using Slack for board of directors meetings could make sense. Nina's using Blooms. Sure. Yep. Blooms is kind of a classroom teacher to parent communication tool. And are there any other questions from anybody at this point? I'll just give you another second or two, and then not we'll move on. Okay, so moving on. As I mentioned earlier, the average school spends a lot of time on paper too, right? And probably a lot of money. Probably around $2,000 a month on average is what schools spend with, buying paper, printer ink, photocopy, repairs, postage, and of course, the hours every day just to manage the paper itself. So digital forms is where, especially, in the administrative side of things, there is incredible amounts of time and workload that can be reduced if you move from paper forms to digital forms. First of all, parents love the experience. Nobody really likes getting a stack of 40 sheets of paper every year for the re-enrollment package. And certainly, I don't think I've ever met somebody that works in a school office that says they love managing all that paper and all the information that comes in on that paper for sometimes months after it all comes in. with digital forms, parents can fill out all the paperwork and, well, the quote unquote paperwork, which is now digital paperwork. They can fill out all those forms and the job is done. There's nothing else to do. They fill out the form, they submit it. Digital forms have all these great features that you don't get with paper. They do everything paper does, but they have all these extra features like making fields required so you never get missing information. And how about never having to read handwriting again? That's a big winner for sure. The Hubbli digital forms handle signatures, digital signatures, and take payments. But the beautiful thing is, there's a whole bunch of little bells and whistles, but the main value is parents submit the forms and there's nothing to do. Everything is now organized. It's filed digitally. It's organized. You can go in and query the files and look things up with a search field in seconds. You can export, you can draw reports. These things should take seconds. They shouldn't take weeks. So every school we talk to, I mean, obviously enrollment and parent packets, these are the big time wasters. But just on a day-to-day level, going in to find information, field trips, any type of paperwork. There's so many different reasons. Like when I had a teacher that used to, we walked through the process of setting up, the paperwork, reviewing the paperwork requirements for a field trip, and ultimately it came to about 3 hours of paper management per field trip. Going to the office, getting a form made, getting it out to the kids parents, getting them to sign it, getting it back, collecting the checks, organizing all the, like walking around for weeks with this ever-growing stack of paper as they came in over time, organizing, the list, the roster for the bus, all these things didn't, this teacher was the music teacher, was able to do 14 field trips in 1 year because you started using Hubbli, and all of that time disappeared. All of a sudden, it removed all the hassle, so he could just focus on the good parts of the field trip. And obviously, the kids benefit from better educational experiences. Plus, polls are a much easier way of making decisions, or at least getting consensus within a group. So they're great for scheduling meetings or deciding what gift to get for somebody, or what healthy snacks to add to the vending machine. So the point is, if you're to do this over a group email thread like we saw before, using that reply all function, which you should never do, it can really be quite a daunting task. Or you can let everyone enter you can let everyone enter the poll, and it gets out the information that you need so much faster and with so much less hassle. So making a poll like this, it takes all of 1 minute on Hubbli. But you can also use, there's other tools that do this too. SurveyMonkey, or what is it, Doodle. There's other Google Forms. It's the same type of experience, but the bottom line is, obviously the value with Hubbli is that it's just all in one place. So it's the same tool and all the same database. When you're dealing with a digital form provider like Hubbli, we'll actually organize your entries for you, so you don't even have to, type them manually into a spreadsheet or database, for weeks at a time. So when you have to find something, it's in a simple, it's just a search, or a sort, rather than thumbing through stacks of paper. So when there's a form or report or documentation filled out about a student, how much time does it take to get you to organize that or send it out or look up that information? So what if all the parents or staff had to do was fill out the form, and just the system sent the information to the right place automatically, and place the information on a page about the student for easy lookup, or printing? So here at Hubbli, this is what we do. We give every child a filing cabinet. Basically, it's a page. It's private about the child, and all the records automatically show up there. And whether they're filled out by parents or their records by teachers. The example we're looking at here is a teacher form where they go in, they select the child. Could be attendance or an imminent or attendance or an incident report or whatever. It can automatically send a message to the parent, depending on what the situation is, whatever your workflow is. Another example is, let's say a teacher fills out an incident report. Instead of sending the notification directly to the parent, the system will first send it to an admin who can then approve it with one click or one tap on their phone, and then it gets sent off to the parent automatically. So those types of things, which again, it's 20 seconds here, 5 minutes there, 20 minutes here, sometimes 3 days over here. These are the types of processes that a system can automate and really reduce that time from your lives, so you can focus on the things that you more enjoy about being a teacher or an educator. So how do your parents currently book like parent-teacher conferences or school tours for prospective parents? What we usually hear is schools have a sheet on a door of every room, or parents have to kind of run back and forth from door to door to see who, what slots is available. So what we have in the Hubbli system here is an automated digital scheduling system, so people can see all the schedules from one central place, and they can, it sends automated confirmations and reminders for the events or whatnot, and handles cancellations, and it synchronizes with your existing calendars just to make things really simple. So I know that it's from school to school, it's a little different, but generally speaking, it's a nice, either a school is using a tool like, could be, what's the typical one is Sign Up Genius, or maybe I think Schedule Once. I mean, there's so many different calendar tools out there. This is what it looks like on Hubbli, but where the real value comes in actually is when you've got a full system here that's totally automated, when all the different workflows and processes, not just the digital forms and the messages and the scheduling and all that stuff, but when they can all work together through an automated workflow, that's where things can really get powerful. So this is kind of like the ultimate way to achieve your school administration workload reduction. So if you really want to simplify your parent engagement workload, you're going to want to set up some automated workflows to handle the tasks that you repeat on a regular basis. So here's where this is like an example of just an automated enrollment workflow that we created. We built inside of one of our Hubbli's customer sites. So if you think like their Hubbli site was somebody came from, let's say, Google or a Facebook ad came to their Hubbli site and they filled out the inquiry form. The admin would get notified. The left. This is what we call a lane diagram. The left lane is the parent, the prospect, and the right lane is the school office, right? So the parent comes in from an ad or something, or doing a Google search, fills out that inquiry form, the school office admin gets notified, and then the parent starts getting a drip sequence of emails. This is all automated. The system's doing all of this, sending messages to the parents in a sequence that can sort of sell the school and drive that prospective parent to book a tour or sign up for an open house. All of this stuff is already set up and configured, and then when they do that, the system will also send reminders and tasks to the right admin in case that parent hasn't yet filled out the application form. So reminding the admin, like, this person needs to fill out the application form, and then with one little click, it'll send a pre-written email to that parent about the application form, and sends them a link to the application form, and so on through the enrollment process. And what's great about this is that number one, the system's like notifying you when you need to do something, so you never actually forget. And then because there's a lot of things going on in a school, and secondly, it's also organizing it, so anytime you never lose track. It's a linear process, and you can always see where all of your parents are at what stage. So you never, again, it's just really helpful never to be able to lose track of a parent. And up until now, we've been talking about the internal communications with your enrolled parents, but we're gonna Hubbli also kind of helps you manage all of your external marketing, and so Jonathan and I are going to be doing a webinar on that in the near future, where we focus on the external communications with parent engagement. But just to give it a nod, Hubbli does provide schools with a website, and they're really, really highly optimized websites to high performing, secure, and will get you found at the top of Google searches, so that you're getting found by the right prospective parents, of course, which is the key. So, I want to just ask you at this point, what do you think at this point about everything that you've seen? So And I'll just stop for one quick second. We've got a question here. Um, Oh, I see that there's some great discourse going on between Nina and Richard. So I'm so nice. That's really nice to see our attendees chatting with each other. That's awesome. But what I'll do is continue on with the. Doesn't look like there's any other questions for me right now. So, but I want to ask you. You know, I'm not exactly sure why you showed up here today, but I bet I can guess. So you probably would like to be able to send messages to parents and just trust that they will be read. And I'm sure that you want to free up, you know, your time from like the boring and repetitive and remedial activities, like sorting through sheets of paper, so you can actually spend more time on those higher value and more enjoyable tasks, like being in the classroom with the kids or interviewing new families. You know, and I'm sure you know that you are obviously capable of doing more. Everyone here is, I'm sure, a smart and capable person. We just need to get some of these roadblocks out of the way. These are just technical roadblocks. And you want to give your parents a communication experience that they appreciate and they don't feel that they need to dodge. So, you know, you've shown up here today, you've made it a priority. Hopefully you've taken some notes, but maybe you're even excited about making some changes. And I want you to know that an efficient system can change your school and it can really change your life, but you've got to know exactly what to do, right? Like at your school specifically, because every school is a little different. So, you know, what's the skill level of your staff? What are the communication expectations of the parents in your neighborhood, right? What are the tools that you already know and use? And can those tools be used more effectively? Or do you need to switch to other tools? And that's where we come in. So you've got two options. Option one is to take the information I've given here today, which is fairly high level, you know, and figure out how to make changes on your own. You certainly all are smart people. I'm pretty sure, like most people in your shoes, you're really busy though, right? And you don't have time to figure out all this stuff. So the obvious question is, how can you quickly and easily figure this stuff out for your school? So I'd now like to take a moment of your time. This will be the first offer of one of Hubbli services. Now that we've kind of talked about the background theory, what I'm about to show you is it's not one of Hubbli's software tools. Rather, it's a form of consulting service that we offer as a standalone service, which gives you an opportunity to gain a really accurate assessment of the effectiveness of your parent engagement. It's called the Parent Communication Report Card. Do I have your permission to take a few minutes of your time to show you this? Okay, I've got your permission. Thank you. So, the Hubbli Parent Communication Report Card is the most efficient way to learn exactly what your school needs to improve parent engagement. Um, the report will enable you to determine how your website is performing with regard to speed, security, and overall search engine optimization. It'll show you how to significantly increase the number of inquiries of prospective families. It'll show you how to attract more of the right fit families to your school and how you can reduce the stress and the workload of managing multiple parent communication tools. So what you're going to get is a 1-hour live one-on-one assessment with me. We're going to give you an actionable report with specific strategies and tools that your school should use. Optionally, if you want to use the Hubbli system, we'll give you a 50% discount off the setup. And you can also, again, optionally, if you want to use Hubbli, you can get one free month off the annual subscription. So the first deliverable, we're going to run your website through this analysis tool that will tell us exactly how your website's performing in all the key areas that determine if your school website is likely to be found by prospective families searching for schools online. And we'll also give you this action list. This is the second deliverable. You know, we're gonna identify the top 3 things that you need to do differently with the tools you're currently using, or with tools and strategies that we identify during the session that you need to adopt. The third deliverable is an expense and revenue calculator. This is where you get a crystal clear understanding of what your current processes are costing you and how much additional revenue the school could be making with small adjustments to everything. So this is really good because this is an ironclad business planning report that no school owner or partner could really ever argue with. So remember, obviously, numbers don't lie, right? Numbers don't have opinions. So, if you want to have an easy time convincing people that things need to change, this is something that you definitely want to have as part of your presentation. So, well, you're probably wondering what this would all cost. So you could keep on doing what you're doing, and like if you're like most schools, you're probably spending about $30,000 a month per 100 students simply on managing all the different communication tools. With all the hours that everyone's spending on managing communication tools, it comes to about $30,000 per 100 students. Or another option is that you could hire a consultant to come to your school, right, for thousands of dollars. This is not a bad idea. It's just, it's really expensive and it requires a lot of steps and planning to make it happen. So what's the value of doing this report today? So the regular price for the parent communication report card is $498. And if you do if after you do the report, if you are interested in using Hubbli, the regular price for that setup is $19.99, and the Hubbli software, the basic software, is $199 a month. So the total value of all of that is $2,696. Whereas your total investment today is actually only $97, and for that you get a parent communication report card service. And then if you decide to move forward with Hubbli, we're going to give you a 50% discount off our setup, which is a one-time payment of $19.99, and you'd get that only for $9.99. Additionally, your first month will be free, so that's going to save you $199 as well. So the total savings of $1,400. So we're really trying to make it as easy as possible for you to get some really huge results at your school. So you can get started today. There's only 5 spots available because obviously it's when we do a consulting service like this is like, our time. It's not like our software. We can handle as many software company customers as come in, but consulting services, it's pretty limited. So we can only really offer 5 spots at $97. And I also want you to know that we're here to provide real help. We want to give you useful information that will have a big impact on your school. So we're very sure that you'll find this valuable. But if you don't, we'll give you a refund. We'll give you every dollar back, and we'll even give you an additional $25 for your time. So there's no limit on this. If you do it, you can just say, "Give me my money back. I didn't like this. It wasn't worth it." And we're not going to argue with you. We're just going to give it back to you. We don't think that's going to happen, but and here's a bonus. If you sign up before the end of the webinar here, you're going to get a bonus with a free ebook. So I'm actually going to drop an offer down that allows you to sign up right now. And if you sign up right here, you're going to get this bonus right here that will allow you to learn a lot about strategies for mastering parent engagement. It's a free bonus, and it just to get this just requires you to sign up using the button on the right here for the parent communication report card. And of course, at this point, we can take any questions from the audience. Please, if you have anything you'd like to ask about, now's the time. So Helen, you're asking, does you use Maplewood for your student database? Hubbli, yeah, Hubbli does replace that. Hubbli really is your all-in-one system. So certainly is, Hubbli is, replaces really any kind of student, information system that you're using. And it's got an enrollment system, and it also, we didn't talk about it, Hubbli also has a tuition management system, which is an add-on. So certainly, Hubbli is meant to really be your all-in-one parent communication. Obviously, tuition is another form of parent communication, pretty important one. So that's just another component of Hubbli as well. So are there any questions about, any of the topics that we covered today as well? Would love to answer anything. I also just want to say thank you to the folks that stuck with us through all of those technical difficulties. That was something we've never seen before. So we're going to have to look into this webinar tool we're using. That was a weird one. So I do apologize for that, and I do very much thank you all for your patience and for sticking with us. It's an honor to be given your attention. I know you guys are all doing important things. If you're involved in school leadership, your time is incredibly important and incredibly valuable. And I'm honored that you would take the time to be with us here today. And I really hope we get the chance to do that parent communication report card with you, because there's just so much that we find that so many ways we can help, even without being a Hubbli software customer. We can consult on, we can give you a lot of helpful information that will really help. So Richard, you're asking, how are hard copies of forms converted into digitally updatable ones? So it's a great question, actually. So the Hubbli form tool has a really easy to use form builder, which you can go in and build a form anytime. Now, just so you know, as a service with Hubbli, part of that setup that we regularly charge $19.99 for, when schools become Hubbli customers, you just dump all your forms on us and we set them up for you. It's really easy to do yourself at any time, but because at the beginning there's so much to convert over to Hubbli, our team actually just does it all for you, and we give you a training program. So we train you on the Hubbli system, and at the same time, a different team does the implementation. You just dump it on us. You just send it to us, and we set it up for you. We do this every day for schools, and it's just something that it's really easy to do. All of your forms can be all converted into digital forms in a matter of days, a few days. So it's, but you can even do it yourself. All right, Laura, thank you very much for being here. It's a real pleasure to have you, and feel free to reach out, or if later in the day you want to sign up for that parent communication report, you can do that really easily by going to hubbli.com/get-report. Thanks, Richard. Well, Richard, I really would suggest, if you're actually interested in the Hubbli service and you want to discuss this with your board of directors, the Hubbli report will give you information and give you like a business case for taking a step like, to use a system like Hubbli. Hubbli obviously is one of, other tools out there. We're a little different than anybody, but it'll give you a presentation and really a report that with action items for everything. And this is the type of thing that when discussing with a board of directors, um, makes it really easy to get approval for things that you think are important. Basically, we'll make it really clear where your room for growth is, where your problems are. We'll give you action items to address those problems. And we're going to give you a business planning tool so you can really identify how much you're spending with those problems and inefficiencies, and what you could do, what the net revenue increase would be from making incremental improvements on everything, which is what Hubbli does. Hubbli allows you to make improvements on all your different forms of parent communication. Nina, if you want to contact me directly, you can get me at jono@hubbli.com, or you can call me, of course, at 1-888-415-4450, extension 100. So I'm putting those into the chat there. So feel free to reach out to me anytime. Okay, folks, I guess what we'll do is shut it down now. It doesn't seem like anyone has any more questions. And I, again, very much appreciate everybody joining us today. And feel free to reach out directly at Jono, Jono, at Hubbli.com. And thanks, guys. I hope to connect with you all in the near future. It's been an honor, and don't be a stranger. Keep your eyes open. We'll be promoting more webinars without all the glitches at the beginning. Thanks again for sticking with us. All the best.